Okay, so we are here. Welcome everyone, and thank you for being here for the second meetup of Microsoft Excel Saudi Arabia and Power Platform. And it's my pleasure to be here because this person who is here with me, and I got a chance to meet in Slovenia, and I call him Thor of Excel. You know, he's one of the Avenger. I call him Thor. So I'll be introducing him shortly, but just let me quickly just talk about a little housekeeping just to keep so that we can have this meetup smoothly. Just to avoid any internet connectivity issues, and participants can speak without any trouble, just make sure that you keep your mic muted and the video is off. So, and there will be a dedicated time will be given to the presenter and the participants to answer the questions. And if you have any time, any questions, please feel free to put it in that chat box. And if you have anything you want to speak, please raise up your hand and we'll let you speak. And if you're facing any connectivity issue, then we would request you that you can just exit it and rejoin it, and I'll admit you again in the meeting. And please don't download any videos or watch any other Netflix sessions that may lead connectivity issues. And this session will be recorded and live streaming will be available on the youtube.com on excelexciting. Perfect. So today's agenda, we are already on the time that we have a welcome and we'll be talking about the overview. Then the famous guest, Gasper. Welcome, Gasper.
Hey,
So he's here today with us and he'll be talking about the custom function in Power Query and he'll be talking about some more amazing stuff. And I have got to learn with Gasper in Slovenia and in Bulgaria, and I got a chance to meet him and learn a lot of stuff from him. So it's a great opportunity to have Gasper here and sharing this knowledge to the community in Saudi Arabia. Thank you, Gasper.
yeah, no problem.
And and we'll be having the wrap-up session where we'll be having Q&As and then we'll wrap up our session. Great. And this event is sponsored by excelexciting.com. That's my website. And this event wouldn't be possible without the excelexciting.com. And as you know, there will be a global summit coming up on 6th of February till 9th of February. And Gasper has been showing some amazing stuff over there. So if you are interested to power up your skill and become a superhero, then definitely I would recommend you that you should go and join Gasper Masterclass over there. And you can save
I
some.
think that one is sold out, so
Huh.
that one's not available anymore. But there's still you can
Oh
hear me
yes,
speak
yes,
at the
yes.
conference. So
Absolutely. Yes, you're right. Gasper, so I'm really sorry. Gasper tickets have been sold out. But of course, there are some amazing experts out there. You can even join them. And if you use this coupon code Faraz10, you can get a special discount on that one. And this is me with Gasper, my brother, Bhai. I call him Bhai. In Hindi, Bhai means brother. So if anybody is Indian, they know that Bhai means brother. So Gasper Bhai is here with me. And this is a picture we took in, one is in Bulgaria. I think both of them is from Bulgaria. Yes, Gas?
yeah, they're both from Bulgaria.
Yes, and you're holding that Excel Ninja.
Yeah, that one
Can
was
you tell our
given to
friends
me
about this?
by a true Excel ninja. So very proud of that fact.
Yeah. Perfect. So so they are giving this rewards, right? If I remember, you were saying they were giving some rewards to this group, right? When it is there.
So it's I mean it's one of those things, where Excel people are kind of strange, but just very awesome.
Mm.
And so this is actually I wouldn't know how to call this, but within a certain company, there was a group of people that started teaching everyone else Excel, and they
Mm.
were they were like we are. They were excited about Excel. They really wanted to, kind of promote Excel and Excel knowledge. And from that, the ninjas were born. So the Excel ninja is kind of a title,
Yes.
the highest rank that you can get within their, um, so within the company at this point. But it's my understanding that uh, it's just a matter of time before it will go national, I'm sure. Because I was the first international ninja, I guess.
Yes.
I, I'm
And I'm proud of that, by.
yeah, I'm not sure of that, but I'll check next time I see them.
Just to tell you quick about Gasper. Gasper is a BI professional and he's in Microsoft MVP since 2016 and he's from Slovenia. Now, Slovenia is the only country which has love in that. And he provides a lot of trainings and he have done speaker and he's a lead author for Excel Unplugged .com and he has more than on his blogs are on more than top 40 blogs in Excel over the worldwide and he's having around like 250,000 visitors annually and there are around like he has been a speaker on 60 more than 60 conferences and if I just go on talking about him there are a lot of things he has done for the community. And Gasper has also organized, an Excel Olympics conference, which I got an opportunity to go and see him in Slovenia. And welcome, Gasper. And I would give you the floor now. It's yours, and please lead the show and show us the best what you have, brother.
Okay, so let me just share my screen.
Oh, and one more thing. Sorry, if you just
Oh,
want to connect Gasper, then you can please you can take the screenshot, and even I'll be sharing in the link, and it's already there on the Meetup page, so you can connect anytime to the Gasper on these channel.
oh yeah, sure. So if you connect to me on LinkedIn, I'm almost. If you just say that you love Excel, you're accepted. So that's not a big standard, but it's the ones we have. Okay, let me just share my screen.
Sure.
Okay, just to double check, can everyone see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. So first off, I would like to give a shout out to all my friends. I can see a lot of you in attendance, and it's great to see you guys, even if virtually. Um, this is what I love about Excel meetups, and it's if you're really part of the community, you almost always find someone that you know in the crowd. So I'm well excited about that, and I also want to thank Faraz for giving me the opportunity to be here and to talk to you about Excel, which I guess uh, the level of love for Excel is quite the same in this group. So thank you for that, Faraz. Okay, and now without further ado, so this is going to be about custom functions in Power Query. It's a very simple one. It's kind of you need to know two tricks to do it, and what I'm trying to do here is kind of an introduction to that. Although we're going to do kind of an advanced thing also, but more or less an introduction just to give you an idea of how to use this. So how can you um, use custom functions? What's the idea behind it, and why it's such an important tool to have in your Power Query tool belt. Um, and let me just do this because, but I think Faraz already covered all of this. So my name is Gašper Kamenšek. I can't believe that he stole my line where I say that I'm from the only country that has the word love in the name, but okay. And yeah, so I'm a Microsoft MVP. I very proud of that fact. I have the Excel Unplugged blog, which I think it's at least 6 years running on that one. And I'm also a speaker on multiple conferences around the world, and that's where I met That's where I met Faraz. That's where I met Alan Elgar. That's where I met, well, that's where I met everyone that I know on this channel. And, just to prove how kind of amazing this community is, there's a man called Christian with us. And so he was, I met him in Bulgaria, and then he came to my conference in Slovenia. They were only like a week apart. And this year in January, my second child was born, and the wine that we drank on the night that my child was born was given to me by Christian. It's just, it's one of those amazing things how everything is interconnected. Okay, so now let's really jump into it, and let's do a simple one to start off. So we're just going to do a simple blank Excel. And what I'm going to try to do is to connect to the Bank of Slovenia. So the Bank of Slovenia website looks something like this. And the only thing I have here is the currency exchange rate. So for euro to foreign currencies exchange rates. Now, to get this for one day, right, you would just take this URL and copy it and kind of go, give me a query, URL, web query. You would paste the URL and you would find this table and just pull it into Excel. Nothing exciting about that. But where it gets excited is, oh, so there's a kind of switch here where I can say, okay, so I would really love this to be not for the 11th, but let's say I want this to be for the 10th. And what you would figure out is it's actually all in the URL. So if I just change the URL to say the 10th, right, there it goes. So yeah, I can paste the URL if you want to. Here it is. So this is for the 10th, but it really doesn't matter. But now I want to take this a step further, right? So I want to do something like this. I want to say, let's go and grab this table and grab it for the 10th, let's say. But then I want to say, oh, okay. Well, but now let's grab it for the 10th, 11th, and 12th. And this is where things get kind of, I won't say weird, but this is where things get really interesting, because if I just go to Excel and say, oh, I just realized you're looking at the Slovenian Excel. That's got to be quite a cultural experience for you guys. Let me just change that. So let me do this, switch it out. So let's do it like this, because otherwise you will never find the commands that I'm using. Okay, so a simple new Power Query, so data, get data. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from other sources from web, which is, again, nothing special. I could have used that from the ribbon itself. And this one says, okay, so here's my URL. So I just paste it in. I say, okay. And it goes connecting to that URL. And what I get is I sort of get two results. The first one is exactly what I'm looking for, and the second one is some other document from the HTML rendering of that page. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, well, this is kind of what I want, so I want to transform this. But now let's say that I basically want to do this. So I have a query now that gives to me this table. And let's say I'm only interested in, like, let's say 7 of these, or let's just pick a random array of these. So let's say the Australian dollar, the Canadian dollar, the British pound, and let's do, what else do we want to do? Well, let's do the US thingy like this. Okay, so these are the only currencies that I trade in, and these are the ones that are of interest to me. And these are the ones that I want to get. But the point is, I want to get them for several different dates. And at this point, this one is hard coded. So this one says, if I just show you the code, right, it says the URL is this, and the date is the 10th. Now I could go and change this, right? I could go and say, well, now it's the 11th and let's go, right? But whereas it gives me the 11th, what I would really want is to just have kind of a, you know, a master table that would bring this 4 currency exchanges in for each of those dates. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to make this query dynamic. And once you start talking about dynamic queries, you're actually talking about custom functions, more or less. Because to make a query dynamic, there is something in there that you got to somehow change or call. And whereas you can make queries dynamic without using a function, so by either having a certain cell in Excel that you can change and then read through Power Query, and then it kind of changes the result of the query. But what I'm thinking about is actually having one query, but saying, now do this multiple times, right? Dynamic in that sense. And this comes down to functions. Now, what I want you to think about with whatever you're doing functions is, I gotta have my master query, which is this one. So the base query on which everything else will be based. And then I need to change it into a function. And always, always, always do this like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name of this query. I'm just going to say, this is H as in help, and then FN as in function. And then I'm just going to do, let's say web. I'm just going to do it like this. And I always need a copy of my function, and I'll actually show you why. So now I have this query, and because I need this one, I'm actually going to do a copy of it. So I'm just going to right click it and say duplicate. I'm just going to do it here. I'm not going to go back to Excel because it wouldn't make sense. And with this one, I'm going to remove the to part, and I'm actually going to remove the H part. So this one is just going to be function web like this. Now, naming it like this doesn't make it a function, of course, but to make it a function, all you need to do is this. So you grab your query and you go home and advanced editor. So you go to the advanced editor of the query, and then you do something like this. You drop the let statement for one row, and then above it, you do parentheses, equals, and greater than. Now, what this is supposed to be is parentheses, which are always like a function kind of thing, you know, from Excel, from DAX, from whatever. And then a kind of arrow saying, do this with it, right? So if you use your imagination, there's an arrow in there, even though it's just an equals and a greater than. And then, so at this point, this is already a function, but the problem is it doesn't really do anything because it just repeats the query that was hard-coded previously. But then interesting things start happening in here, right? And what you can do in here is start giving this function arguments. So just the first one I'm going to give it is date. All right, so I'm going to say you grab a date, and then what I want you to do with this date is I want you to change the URL. but not the entire URL. I just want you to change this final bit of it. So you come over here and you add to the URL whatever date is. And date is right up here, right? Now, there are certain keywords you're not supposed to use, and date is actually one of them. Now, you can use it, but if you want to be sure, you can kind of give it a selected date or something. The only thing you need to be kind of mindful of is whatever you give it, so the name that you give it here needs to be the name that is referenced here. And where Power Query kind of differs from Excel is you got to write it exactly as it is, right? It's case sensitive, whereas Excel it's not. Okay, so this is my selected date, and at this point, I created a function. I said, take whatever I give you as a selected date and then do with it, take the URL as it was, and then just kind of append this date to it, and then do everything that I taught you to do, right? And all the rest of this is just filtering. It's the same kind of query as before. It's just that now it's going to become a function. You kind of should check at this point if it says no syntax errors have been detected. That is a good thing to see if you're doing a function. And without seeing that, just don't leave this until it says that. Because the other thing that I was actually talking about previously, but now I'm going to carry this point home, is once you say done, this turns into a function. But what you're also going to see is, whereas my usual Power Query looks like this, so I can go through the steps, I can see what's happening. Once I change it into a function, there are no steps here. And of course, this is a very simple query. It doesn't even have more than 4 steps. It's not something that would that you could actually get really entangled in. But if you think about it, if you had like a query with 20 or 50 steps, then this would actually be a problem, because the only thing that you're going to see is this either works or it doesn't. So if I give it 11, 1, 20, 21, invoke, it will either work or it won't. And I can see that it doesn't work, right? But I don't know why it doesn't work. Why don't I know it? Well, because there's no steps. I can't see which step is actually giving me an error here, right? So that's why I said before, it's very important that you keep your basic query like this, right? Because this query, just taken into account that you've changed this, but from here on out, this is the same query. And it usually won't fail you at the first step. It will usually fail you at one of the following steps. And that's when it's really, really paramount that you got this first query where you can say, okay, so let me test this out. Let me give that first one in and see which one of these steps actually fails then, right? And you can actually do that. You can go through the steps. Right? And that's why you always have this first copy of your function so that you can use it. Okay, but now, so now I got this query and now I created a function. Now, what this function is actually expecting of me is it's expecting a date, right? And it's expecting a date as text. That's very important, right? Why is it expecting it as text? Well, because I'm using, first of all, I got a string of URL over here, and then I'm using the thing that combines strings, and then I'm saying, and just paste this with it. If selected date is going to be a number, if it's going to be a date, it's just not going to work, right? Sometimes you can even emphasize that. In some functions, you're going to see that they're written like so. They're saying selected date as, and then you would have text, string, date, whatever you're expecting this to be. But I'm not going to go that far. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, okay, now close and load this. And I don't even want to load it anywhere because the first one is just a helper thing that I have so I can keep an eye on my function. And then this is a function, so it really doesn't load anything. But now let's do a simple table in Excel. So let's say, and all it's going to have is a date. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go the 10th of January 2020, the 11th of January 2020, and why don't we just pull this like this? And we can't go beyond the 12th because that's today, and there is no data beyond the 12th. But I could go back as much as I wanted to. Okay, so now I have this table. The reason I created a table is just so I can easily kind of import it into my Power Query, or I can easily make Power Query see my table. I will just say, well, here's my table, and now I want to create a query from table range, right? So start from this. And now the only thing that's going to kind of be interesting here is, well, at this point, this is what? Well, at this point, this is a date. And what do I need? Well, I need a date, sort of, but I need it as a string. So if I look at the steps that it created, so here's my source and here it did what? Well, it changed the type and it changed it into what? Well, it changed it into date time. And that is just something I do not want. So I'm going to say, well, this is actually a string. Just replace the current definition and do it like this. But now I see that this, well, this is very, very bad. It doesn't do anything that I need. It actually gives me the hour with it. And there's a space here that's somehow Microsoft thinks that Slovenians write dates like that. We never do, but that's what they think. So I'm just gonna say, you know what, this is not good. So I'm just gonna change it into a simple date again, at least losing the hour portion of the string. And then I'm gonna go, okay, so this is a date, and now I want you to kind of transform this. And what I want you to do is to add a column and first give me a year from that one. And then I want you to add a column and give me a month number from that. And then I want you to add a column and give me a day from that, right? So these are my kind of parts of my date. And now I can take all three of these and I can just say, well, these should be strings. And now that I have these, I'm just going to click the day first, then I'm going to do month, and then I'm going to do year, because that's how we write dates in Slovenia. So it's day, month, year. And then I'm going to say, okay, so these are the three that I want. And I want you to do is transform, and I want you to merge these columns. And it's going to say, well, what is your separator? And I'm going to say it's going to be a custom. It's just going to be a dot. And I want you to call it date string. Okay. Right, so now I have my date and I have my date string. And now what I should do is now I can actually say, okay, well, if I have my date as a string, now I can use that. Why? Because, well, there's a function here that's just waiting for that, right? So when we created the first one, it actually carried the same thing. So it took the date right here as a string. Oh, and I can just see that it's going to require the one here. So I'm going to have to change that one a bit. But that's the beauty of Power Query, right? So if I need to change this one a bit, I can just say, so do that and then do this. But before you do that, I want you to take the month and I want you to kind of transform this. And what I want you to do is to, well, I could just add a prefix. That would be the best thing to do to add a prefix. But let's just be clear about this. If I was doing this bulletproof, you can't just add a 0 in front of it. You have to check if it's 9 or less, then you add a 0. If it's 10 or more, you don't. But since we're doing this like this, so I'm just going to add the prefix, and then I'm going to merge it. So here I got the desired result. And now we come to the stage where I can say, okay, so here are my dates as strings. Now let's use our function, right? And you do that by going to add column, invoke custom function. And here it's going to ask you to name your new column something. So I'm going to say, let's call it function used. In all fairness, I never give this column any other name than what it's originally there. And the reason I don't give it a name is because I'm not ever going to see this column, because it's going to give me tables, and all I'm going to do is just, kind of separate those tables out, and then the column will not, the name of the column will not be important because it's not going to get used anywhere. But let's just call it function used. And which function am I referring to? Well, there's not much choice here. Of course, we could have multiple functions, and then you would choose the one that you want, but I only have D1. And then it says, well, okay, so this function needs a parameter, and the parameter is called selected date. Now, that's just the name that I gave it. And now I could kind of feed it values, and I could feed it values multiple ways. So I could say, I'm just going to give you a, hard-coded value, or just take a column. And the column that I want you to take is date string. All right? And I go, okay. And this is where it gets interesting, because this is where it's going to take the string and then do the entire query that I did over there. So over here. So it's going to return only 4 currency exchange rates per date. So if I look at the table, if I go just click to the right of it and I get this preview over here, right? I see that this first one returns this, second one returns this, the third one returns this. And at this point, I don't even need my date string anymore. I'm just going to remove that one, but I'm going to keep the date, and then I'm going to separate these. And remember when I said that whatever this is called, I don't care. Well, I still need to remove this one. And again, a shout out to the Power Query team. This really should be off by default. But okay, so we remove that one. We just say, okay. And there you go. So for each day, I now have all 4 currency exchange rates. And I know which day they belong to, right? But I only wrote the query once and then turned it into a function. And now I can use it multiple times. And just to show you how kind of incredible this is, I'm going to I'm going to close and load this into Excel. So let's put it over here. So this is the table that I got. All right. And now I'm just going to go back to this one, and I'm going to add a couple of dates. So I'm going to say the 8th of January 2020, and then let's do the 9th of January 2020. And all I need to do here is say, well, refresh. Right? It's going to take the 2 new dates. Oh, and now it busted out. Now the reason it busted out is because there's no zeros, leading zeros in front of those 9s and 8s. So let's just fix that. And this is where it's kind of going to get tricky, but still, we need to do proof of concept here. So it takes the actual dates, right? It puts them in like this. But the problem is, once it gets to this point, when it combines them, right? It does the 801, whereas with the URL, what it's expecting is probably 0801, right? So we need to somehow say, okay, so if the day is less than 10, then just add this. Now, this is going to be kind of painful, but still, let's just do it because it is kind of nice practice to it. So before we do the merge, we need to kind of change this day. And the way I'm going to change it is I'm going to say add column, custom column. Let's just do it like this. Insert. And I'm going to say new day. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. And let's just do this. If, and then I need to do number dot from. Now, the reason I need to do number dot from is this is not a number. This is a string. So I need to say get a number from day, right? Just turn that string into a number and then just check if that is less than 10. That's not a less. So if that is less than 10, then what I want you to do is put a 0 in front of it as a string and then just attach that day to it. Else, I just want you to give me the day. There's nothing wrong with that. Going like this. So this is my new day. And now if I want this one to work, right? This one combines day, month, year. I just need to get rid of this one. And then turn this one back into day. And just to be on the safe side, I'm going to format it as a string. It really doesn't matter at this point, but if we're doing it kind of bulletproof, let's just do it. And now it does the correct combining, right? And this means that our function is also going to work. So our function now returns a table for the 9th and for the 8th. And now I can just see what I got. Kind of go like this. And now since it's doing separate website hooks for each one, this does kind of take a while. But regardless, it does show how amazing the functions really are. And since the before part was so anticlimactic, and even this one is, because you see that we kind of got them mixed up, right? Oh, it's actually mixed up here. So what we need to do, oh, and this is brilliant. So what it did is the exchange rates, mind you, the exchange rates actually look like this. You see them. So it's 1 dot something, something, something. But as it changed the type of it, it says, well, this is a number. When it saw the dot, right, that is the way the people in the US write their dates. Or their numbers, sorry. They go dot is the decimal separator, but that's not how we write it in Slovenia. In Slovenia, comma is a decimal separator. A dot is a 1000 separator. And that's what it actually took here. So it said, oh, yeah, I know this, but I need to change this now. And there's a problem, right? So I need to change this. I need to change how my function works, but there are no steps in my function. What am I going to change? And this is where I say, well, let's do it in the original one, right? Let's see where's the step that actually just does everything wrong. And here it is. And then I see that the rate is an integer, but it's not the US integer. So I'm just going to remove that one. Go like this, where it's still a string. And then I'm going to say, well, now I want you to change the format using locale. So kind of using the local settings of United States of America. And what I'm going to do is say, I want you to behave like this is a decimal number, but one that comes from, and we're going to do F and go up a bit and find the English United States. It's always better to press F and go up than it is to press E and go down. It's just kind of easier. And now it does exactly what I want it to, right? Now I get the numbers that I need. But the problem is, well, I made this over here, so my function doesn't know anything about that. But how can I change my function? Well, all I need to do is I need to go to my first query, take all of these steps, just say copy, and then go to my function, go advanced editor, go like this, and just say paste. Go done, go back to my table, and now it's exactly as it should be, right? And I think this kind of proves the point of why you need that first. So let's see why this is bumping out now. Oh, it's still refreshing, I see. Why you need that first query, right? Why you need that first kind of copy of your query, just so you can edit it easily. And then go for the changing of your function where you just paste the lines that you added to that function. Okay, and at this point, if I went to add the 7th, this would actually be brilliant now. So if I go like this, go here, just do a refresh, and now we're going to get the 7th and we're going to get it to work. Again, it takes some time because it's doing separate calls, but still, there it is. Right. Yeah, so I'm guessing you already answered that question. So I'm just looking at the chat and somebody is saying, is there a place where you can save and store queries? I could also be mean and say, talk to Ken Poles about that. There seems to be a certain add-in that can do amazing things. Well, just so I kind of, pointed at you. Ken is asking, why is that mean? But anyways, so the Excel at this point doesn't really have a save this query, share this query kind of tool. Not to say that it doesn't need it, and not to say that it probably will get it at some point, but it doesn't have it right now. Okay, so this is just kind of a here's what it can do, right? Here's what you can do with functions. Here's how you can use them, and here's why they're so great. Because remember, I'm adding the dates, so I'm actually adding kind of the queries that I'm doing, but it's still just one function doing them all, right? It's doing as if I'm doing multiple queries and then appending them one below the other, but it's just one function doing that. Okay. So there's a whole discussion on the chat. You can watch that. And I'm going to go to my second demo, which will be kind of better because what we're going to do is we're going to do this. We're going to take a look at multiple Excels with multiple sheets. So each one of these, they're actually different. Looks kind of like this. So each one of these Excels has a sheet that is called monthly and then site 1 and monthly site 2. The other one actually has even more than that. So the other one, there it is. even has a monthly site free, right? And what I would like to do is to go through the entire folder of Excels, to go through all Excels that are in there, and then go through all the sheets within those Excels that are called monthly site something. And then for each of those sheets, I want to change this. So I kind of get the 3-column table. One would be the month, the second would be the attribute or the KPI or however you want to call it, and the third would be value. Right? So I need to do that for each sheet in each Excel in this folder. Now you probably know that Power Query as such has this thing that is called get data from folder. Right? You've probably seen it before. The problem is within the Excel thing, you can only say, well, yeah, get it from a folder, but then you would go, this is the like part of that Excel that I want you to take from each Excel and then append it, right? And you can only take one sheet or one table. That's what you could point to, but you can't say take all the sheets in all Excels in that folder. And how are we going to solve that? Where it's kind of clear. We're just going to do function. We're going to create a function that knows how to deal with this sheet. We're just going to say, well, look, here's an Excel and here's a sheet, and this is what you do with it. And now that you know that, now here's the folder full of Excels. Let's just get all the sheets from all those Excels, and then let's use our function on all those sheets, on all those Excels within that folder. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to start off simple. We're just going to connect to one of those. So we're going to say get data from file, from workbook. And we're going to, oh, this is going to take a while. Let me just see if I can take this and make it far easier on us like this. And we're just going to take the first one. It really doesn't matter. Okay, and now I see that these are actually tables, or I could go on sheets. Now this is it's a tricky one because basically tables are far better than sheets. Sheets can surprise you. They can all of a sudden have 124 columns out of nowhere, and whereas tables are kind of safe. But I'm trying to go on through the sheets because I know the names of the sheets. Now you can see that all the tables actually have kind of similar names to them. So I could just go with that, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna go with sheets. So I'm gonna learn it how to teach the Power Query how to deal with monthly site sheets. And I'm gonna say transform. And what I'm doing now, and this is important, what I'm doing now is I'm gonna kind of try to create, and this is very important, you're trying to create a query that you're going to turn into a function that can work with any shape of this table, right? And this is very important. So already I could have a problem. This one says change type. So up to here, I'm okay. But this one says change type, and the syntax of it says, well, column 1 is text, column 2 is any, column 3 is any, and then up to column 10 is any. Now, why is this a problem? Well, what if I have a sheet that doesn't have 10 columns? This is a step that's going to fail. So I just take it out, as it's actually not even needed, right? At this point, to say what my columns are would just be silly because they can be whatever. And then let's do something that's kind of bulletproof. Is you see how my table starts with month? I just don't know where it starts. So I could have, I see that I have 2 blank rows over here. So I could just go, you know what, I want you to do this. Remove top rows, remove 2. But the problem is, if I do this, how can I be sure that all of those files follow this pattern, that they all have exactly 2 blank rows above the table that I need? So I'm going to do this dynamic. I'm going to make this dynamic. I'm just going to add a column, and the column that I'm going to add is going to be an index column from 1, right? And then I'm going to take this one right up to the start. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with column 1 filter, and I'm going to say I only care where month is. So where the string month is, that's where my table starts. And now I need this one. So I could get it multiple ways. I'm just going to get it with create a new step and then go to the column that I like to call index and give me that first element of that column. Now you could do the exact same thing by just right clicking and doing drill down. I just prefer to do it this way because I can now go -1. Why did I go -1? Well, I went -1 because I want to use this number for my remove top rows. And 3 would be the wrong number to use because it would delete my header row. So I'm going to just go -1, and I'm going to rename this. I'm going to rename this into the, let's go n of rows. And then I'm just going to go, now give me a new step. And it's not the number of rows. It's back to navigation. Like this. Oh, I should never use that. Let me just change that. I'm going to rename this into, let's call it base, just so we know we can use it. And then this one will just go back to base. Oh, that's interesting. Base, like this. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so the only thing I did now is I kind of took it through the steps where I got to this one number, and I'm just saying, now go back to the beginning. I have this number, I stored it into this number of rows, and now I just go, now go here, and I want you to remove top rows. Now I can't write the number of rows over here because it's not going to accept that because it needs a number, but I'm going to go 4, and I'm going to go okay, because the only thing I need here is I need this syntax just to change this 4 into n of rows, right, into what I just kind of taught it. Okay, so now I removed top rows, and I do the enter, and there it goes, right? So now I have, it removed the top rows, but it removed them dynamically. So I know that whichever one of those sheets is going to look at this point, I'm looking at the same thing. I'm looking at my table, and the header row is the first row of that table. Having said that, the next step is logical. It's just going to be, let's do a use first row as headers. And then it did the same thing to me again. It just did this change type thing, which again calls out my columns and says what they are. And I really don't want it to do that because I'm not sure it's going to be the same columns all the time. So again, I'm going to change that. I'm going to just delete the change type. So let it promote the headers, right? And at this point, I'm just going to go right click on month, and I'm go unpivot other columns. Now this is very important. I didn't select the columns themselves and said unpivot. I selected the month column and said unpivot others. Why is this brilliant? Well, because now there can be 100 columns or 3 of them. It's just going to unpivot as much as, as much columns as there are, right? So this is kind of great. I have my month here. I have my attribute, which I'm going to call KPI, and I have my value, which might as well be value. So I'm just going to leave it like that. And this is exactly what I wanted to get from this. So having said that, we're just at the beginning of the story, right? So this takes this and change it into this, but it can only do that with one sheet in one Excel at this point. But now I'm going to do the same thing as before. So I'm going to go H as in help, FN, and now I'm going to do Excel sheet. All right, so this is my helper for my function. And now I go right click, duplicate. Remember when we said you need to keep this one, and then you do a duplicate, you remove everything else, you remove the H, you just keep the FN part, and this we're going to turn into a function. Now this one is going to need two things, right? Because I want it to work on separate files, so on different files, on different sheets. And if I look at the code right now, it looks something like this. This are the files, right? This is the file path. And this over here is the sheet name. And what I'm going to create a function that will have two parameters. First one will be file path, if I can write it correctly, like this. And the second one will be sheet name. And then I'm just going to say grab those. And what I want you to do with them is, instead of this hard-coded long path, I just want you to use the file path. And then over here, don't use this name, because then you would always get the same sheet, but use whatever sheet name is in there. Again, we check if there are no syntax errors, but we trust ourselves, so we say done. And now this turns into a function. Now this one is kind of more advanced than the one previously, not just because it has more steps, but because it has two parameters. And again, here it's even more important to have this original query, because this one allows me to still go and change things, change the steps if I see something going wrong. Okay, so now I have my function that knows how to deal with sheets in this Excel, but now I actually need to get it to work on all these files in this folder. And this is an interesting part. So I'm going to go, okay, I want you to go folder. So file folder, I'm going to paste that one in again, like this. Oh, and I think I even went one too little. Now this would actually be a good, I'm just not sure I'm ready for that good, because we don't have that much time. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to go like so, and that is not the correct one. So I'm going to go like so, and I'm going to say this is the one I need. Control C, cancel, go back to new query, file, folder, paste that one in, and go OK. Okay, that looks better. And I'm going to say transform. So I want you to transform the list of files in that folder. Now, I'm taking this folder. There are a few things that you need to take into account here. The first one is this folder could have subfolders. Is it going to take that one? Those? Yes, it's going to take all of the subfolders. This folder can have temp files. Is it going to take those? Right now, it's going to do that. So let's first make sure we have no temp files and we have no non-Excel files within this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the extension, I'm going to transform it. I'm going to go format uppercase. This is just a kind of bulletproof way, because sometimes you have the all caps XLSX, and sometimes you have the all small lettering, but they're actually the same thing. Your Windows system doesn't differentiate, whereas your Power Query would. And now I'm going to say, cool. Now from those extensions, I only want the one. So text filter equals X, and now I can just do uppercase, and I know that's going to work. And obviously that didn't work. Oh, just see what I did wrong there. Oh, I forgot.
You just need a dot XLS.
Yeah. There you go. So it's a dot XLSX. There it is. So now I have those. And the second thing is within the name, I'm just going to do it does not contain, or I could do does not begin with a tilde. So this actually removes all the temp files from it, right? Because those start with that. Okay, now I know I have a clean set of only Excel files and only non-temp Excel files. So the non-unopened ones, let's call them like that. And now I need the folder path and I need the name of the file. So I'm going to remove everything else. And I did choose them so that I selected the folder path first and then the name before I went remove others. So they're already kind of in the right order. And I'm going to select the folder path again and then the name. And then I'm going to go transform, merge columns. And let's just give it a name, file path, although it's not necessary that it's called like that, but I'm going to call it file path. And at this point, as far as my function is concerned, I have the first part I need, right? So I have the file path. Now I need the sheets, the sheet name. And how I'm going to do that, I'm going to go add column, custom column. And I'm just going to leave it as custom because I'm going to blow it up anyway. And it's going to be called excel.workbook. Love it how this autocomplete works. And then file.contents. Oh, so it goes like, there it is. And then I just give it the file path like this, go okay. And all that it gives me is kind of a table of what's in this file and what's in this file. And it looks like this. So it says, look, within the first file, I found a couple of sheets and a couple of tables, right? If I just blow this up like this, and then I even found a defined name within there. So these are all the things that you have in there. But since I want to kind of be able to just get the sheets from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with kind and name. These are the two things that I need. I need the kind of element within Excel because I want the sheets. I want to be able to get the sheets out. And then I need the name. So I'm going to say, look, it has to start with monthly. So I go separate this. Don't give me the original column name. And then I just need the kind and the name like this, right? And now for all the Excel files within that folder, I have all the items and all of their names. And now I just go into kind and I say, well, the only thing I actually need are the sheets. And now within the sheets, the only sheets that I need are those that begins with monthly. Huh? And now the kind column I no longer need, but I do need the name column, right? Why do I need it? Well, because my function takes it as a parameter. And now I have the file path. I have the sheet name. What's the logical step? Well, we go add column, invoke custom function, give me the Excel sheet function. And the first thing I wanted, the file path is actually the column from the last step, and it's called file path. And the second one is also a column from my last step, and this one is called name. And now just go. And I can see that it kind of did what it should, but there's an error here. And it said, well, look. So I went searching through this and I could not find column 8. And that's a brilliant thing that it actually did this because, oh, if I would only have this and I would go, well, what is happening? I can't find anything within this. But if I go over here and I say, okay, so it actually failed during the monthly site 2 sheet, and I give it like this, and then I go this, and I actually see where it failed, right? And it failed because I was stupid enough to reorder the columns and to leave that step in there because I wanted to see the index column as the first column, right? And the only thing I need to do is say, well, okay, this one I don't need, obviously. And from this point on, it just works. It does everything it's supposed to. It works. And now I can just say, well, now give me this, because this is what I actually needed. So I copy this, go to my function, go to the advanced editor, and just do something like this. Go done. And there it is, table, 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 table. And if I just pull them apart now, here's what I get, right? So for each of the files in there, for each sheet within those files that starts with monthly, I get all of those KPIs for each month out of there. Now, and this should strike you as, something amazing. It's been around for like, I don't know, 3 years or at least we've been doing it like this for even more, even longer than that. But it shows you how amazing the functions can be. Because right now, if I just take, and let's say I'm going to do this, I'm actually going to drop this into Excel, and I'm going to remove the sheet name because I'm going to leave it. I'm going to drop this into Excel. It's going to drop a couple other things now, but it doesn't matter. So this is the one that I want. It's got the 500 rows, but the cool thing about it is if this one now suddenly gets an extra Excel, you go refresh, and now it's going to take that one and it's got 800 rows all of a sudden, right? So I didn't have to, I got an extra Excel file. I wanted all the sheets from that file, but I didn't need to create I didn't have to create a new query to that one and then append it to whatever I had before. I just said, well, look, there's a function that already works on that, so let's just grab it because it's within that folder. And this, I think, really shows you the power of custom functions in Excel and of how you can utilize them to first kind of do less things, and also so to create less queries per se. And also what you can do is there are certain queries you're going to find within so particularly if you're doing things like Power BI or data modeling in Excel. So if you're doing Power Pivots kind of stuff, you're always going to find yourself in need of calendars. You're always going to find yourself in need of kind of working days attribute or flag or however you want to call that. And you always get it from the same place. And there was a question before if you can save. Oh, there are much more questions now, but okay. So there was a question before if you can save up your queries. Well, whereas you can't, save them as a file save as or something. Or actually, they do get saved with a file, of course, but you can't save the query itself as a file. What you can do is you can just go to Advanced Editor, right, and take that out and so take this and just use it anywhere. Copy, paste it, and it will work. And the good thing about it is, well, this one actually wouldn't work because it's using because it's using the function, so it also needs the function to work. But what I'm trying to say is, if this was a function that would create, or a query that would create a custom calendar for me, I can just, grab it, copy paste it into Notepad or Notepad++ or whatever you're using, and then should the occasion arise in Power BI or Power BI Desktop or in Excel, I just go new query, blank query, and paste it in, and it works. And usually I will actually have a function that creates a calendar within Power Query. If I would do a Power Query calendar, honestly, usually I would do it with DAX, but there are some setbacks with using DAX, and there are certain things that you need to really be mindful of if you're using DAX. So you sooner or later you will find yourself in a situation where you will need to kind of reuse your queries or functions, and this is the best way to do it. And just imagine having, because every kind of calendar query starts with, well, this is my fact table and this is the date column I want you to use as the input for everything you're going to do later. So find the minimum, find the maximum, take it to the beginning of the year, take it to the end of the year, do the fill everything in between, and then give me a year, give me a quarter, give me a workday flag, give me a weekend flag, and all that. You're going to start with a table name and a name of the column. And if that doesn't sound like a custom function, then I did something wrong in this whole episode. Okay, so having said that, I hope that you've found this interesting. I hope that you see the brilliance of custom functions in Excel, because that's what they are. They're brilliant. They're one of the best tools that you can use, aside from kind of automating Power Query with VBA. Custom functions are the, kind of the power tool that you say, well, now do this 700 times. And you don't need to write 700 measures. You just say, well, here's a function, now do it. And that's the brilliance of it. Okay, so I turn things over to Faraz now for his, I guess, celebratory opening of Q&A, or if there's something else that he wants to say. Faraz?
Thank you, Gasper. That was wonderful. That was truly brilliant. I'm checking, some questions. Are there any questions? People are enjoying the session in YouTube also.
Cool.
And even here, I can see in the chat, they're talking about.
Yeah, I can see they actually answered all the questions among themselves. So that's also cool.
That was an amazing idea of using that helper sheet, Excel sheet. That was really cool. Gasper, that was really
Yeah,
cool.
you always need to have that one, because the function will never have steps. And then if something goes wrong, and I just want to put this out there. So it was intentionally that everything went wrong every time. But that was only intentional for the first one, whereas this second one, well, it wasn't intentional. But still, it's great that it went wrong, because then we got to see how you can immediately check it by using the, the backup query that you've created.
If any friends over here on Zoom, if you have any questions, please, you can put it on the chat window, or you can.
Or you can just talk out loud now.
Yes. Because Gasper is here to answer your questions. Chef Allen. By the way, we have Brianna also in the
Where?
house. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Brianna is.
Brianna, show yourself, or actually speak to us.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Happy New Year.
Oh yeah, same to you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just a second, my phone is ringing.
So I gotta tell you, November came and went, November 2020.
I hope.
And it just wasn't the same without the Bulgaria Excel days, you know?
Yeah, the world was crazy, as I already speak with Ken. So I hope this year everything will be okay, and I hope to see each other.
Yeah, for sure.
So it will be perfect. And I'm glad to see that everyone is okay, and yeah, and be happy, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Wait, so I think there's no more questions, Gasper.
Okay, so I leave you with a perfect word which you have no idea what it means, but it means thank you in Slovenian.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna leave you with this. So Faraz already had a few of this on, just so if you wanted to, so you can contact me. And I'm gonna so the slide deck and the files will be available. I'm just gonna send them to Faraz, and then he's gonna make them available to you guys.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Gasper. Thank you so much. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for this
Thank you
lovely knowledge.
for having me, and thanks to everyone for listening and
And
for correcting me from time to time.
and we hope someday that you come to Saudi Arabia and in person, where people.
Yeah, that was the plan, but then
Yeah.
then all this happened. I was just the other day I found this. It was so interesting. I found this scribble. I just do scribbles, kind of time slots which are reserved for conferences that I want to do. And I found this scribble from, I think it was December of 2019, and I kind of had this, and I can't remember it exactly the order, but it was, so I'm gonna go to the Global Excel Summit in London, and I'm gonna do the, I think Ilgar is here with us, so he was gonna do the Azerbaijan in the Excel days. And, of course, I'm going to do the Bulgarian Excel days. And then we're going to go to the Excel Summit and the MVP Summit in Seattle. And we're going to do a Amsterdam, of course, because Tony does a great job of having that one every year. And, just looking at that, I was just...
yeah, then 2020 happened, right?
Yeah,
And
then,
suddenly all
then
plans
all
went
that
to
happened.
crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had the same kind of thing, Gasper. Yeah.
It was just because it was like a list was very long, man. And it was just, what happened?
By the way, we have all list of means in the chat room right now. All the experts are. By the way, my friends, all experts are here. So, Gasper, thank you so much.
Yeah, it
And
was my pleasure,
we'll be
man.
ending up the live session from the YouTube, and
Okay.
still available on the Zoom, and we can just have a chat, and then we can end up the session. But thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you for being here, and love you guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
That bye was for the YouTube.
Yeah. Bye-bye, YouTube.